sometimes think that the bigger regrets in life are all those things that like I know I should have done. Those moments that I should have stepped out of faith, those moments that I should have been courageous, those moments that I should have walked in confidence, those moments that I should have stepped out, but instead I shrinked back in fear. Because it's not just the bad things that I've done, but rather it's the good things that I haven't done. See, every one of us in here, we will fall short and do something wrong. But the question is, which ones of us in here will actually stand firm and do something right?
That you're not afraid to recreate yourself, that you're not afraid to be adventurous, that you're not afraid to be back in one again, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is one again on the next level. 21 is one again on the next level. 51 is one again on the next level. And some people don't grow because they're not willing to give up the 10 to be one again.
The depth of your past is an indication of the height of your future. When construction workers are going to build a big skyscraper, they first have to dig down deep and lay a foundation. The taller the building, the deeper the foundation. You may have gone through or be in an unfair situation. A friend betrayed you, lost a loved one. Be easy to settle there and get discouraged. You may be low right now, but God's getting you in position to rise higher. There are new levels in front of you, new levels of joy, new levels of influence, new relationships, new opportunities right in your future.
And if you're not willing to give up the 10, you'll stay where you are for the prestige of having reached 10 and not willing to go back to 1 again. You failed to grow to what your capacity was meant to be because you don't want to be a sophomore once you've been a senior. You don't want to say, I don't know again. You don't want to do anything that's out of your comfort zone again. You don't want to go into the unfamiliar again, and you stop growing because you stop going. In order to keep growing, you have to keep going. And you cannot love the prestige of 10 to the degree that you fail to come to 11. 11 puts you in a room with 20s. And some people can't stand to be in a room with 20s once they have reached 10. They'd rather be a big fish in a small pond than to swim into a bigger stream and be surrounded by whales and sharks and all that kind of stuff. They like image more than reality.
You're going to need to step out in faith. You're going to need to put your foot in the water. You're going to have to maybe say goodbye to some stuff. Some of you have no idea what God would do for you, and the only way you're ever going to know is to step out and find out. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, I mean, let's just say that you hate your job. I mean, all you do is complain about it. You don't like it. You don't like the people. You don't like the work. And you've really got something else in your heart that you'd love to do. But you live in fear that if you give that up, you might not have anything. Yeah, see, walking by faith, living by faith, the just shall live by faith. That means everything is a step of faith. And sometimes it's comfortable and you've got all the details in place, but very rarely. Most of the time, if you're going to live by faith, if you want to really find out what God can do for you, you are going to have to, so to speak, take a chance.
And sometimes you're barely making any progress. Sometimes you're barely making any progress at all. And that tough situation is making you want to stop. And what you eventually learn is you can't stop. When you're going through tough situations, you got to take that next step. You got to keep moving forward. We're going through a pretty tough situation right now in a lot of different ways. Take that next step. Keep moving forward.
Because we get so distracted with stuff that we're never going to be remembered for. Stuff that we're never going to actually be celebrated for. The truth is that we want to come to the end of our life and we want to be able to declare, no, regrets. Yet what psychologists would tell us and what they would show us is that regret is probably the most common negative emotion that people experience. The moment you can say, if only, is the moment you step into regret. You ever found yourself doing this? If only I'd gotten that job. If only I hadn't gotten hurt. If only I'd gone to that school. If only I would have gotten that job. If only I would have married her. If only I wouldn't have married him. And we spend so much time trying to rewrite history that we never actually focus on the cards that we are dealt. So often it can be so counterproductive. Life is going to always have moments that there's opportunities for regret. And the feeling of regret is not the worst part. It's really what's the next thing you think about after you experience regret. Because regret will come. The question is, what do you do after that moment of regret? Because it really only becomes toxic when regret becomes habitual. See, I think what makes you and I different as human beings is that we have the ability to respond. You would call that responsibility. That you and I can choose and we can determine and define our reaction that yes, we will make mistakes, and yes, challenges will come, and yes, there will be these moments that we want to rewrite history. But I'm telling you tonight that if you'll choose your response, if you'll decide now that I'm going to react the right way, you can actually learn and grow from your moments and your mistakes.
I trust God. I lean on God. I trust God for wisdom. I trust God to show me what to do when I don't know what to do. I trust God for my deliverance. I trust God for my peace. I trust God for my healing more than I do the doctor. I trust God for my rest. I trust God to show me how to live life every day. I trust God that I'm not going to go crazy. I trust God that I won't be sick and end up dying before my time. I trust God that he'll protect me when I'm flying over the oceans of the world. I trust God. I lean on him because no man, no person, no system, no thing, no amount of money, none of that will be able to do you like God will. And I put my trust in him.
Begin today that you were born to do something great with your life. That you're extraordinary. Listen to me. That you're enough. That you're special. That you're favored, regardless of where you come from. But every day, some of us are killing ourselves with the shame we carry from something we've done, some humiliation, some fear. Every day that tells us we're not enough. We're not strong enough, pretty enough, smart enough, favored enough. That we're doomed, and we carry these guns in our head every day that shame us, that take our confidence from us, that steal our joy. You can put those things down in your life. You could decide today that you were born to do something great. You could decide today, just intentionally, to set this weapon down, whatever it is, something you're just not proud of that you've done. Set it down. Stop using it as a weapon against yourself and realize that happened for you and not to you.
Life is a menu. Whoever and whatever you order for your life is what's going to be delivered to the table. Who do I want and what do I want for my day? Most of us could find ourselves doing things because we have a guilty conscience. I've learned to compartmentalize. I've learned to take control of my minute, my hour, my day, my week, my month, and my year. How can you have control? You have control. If you already know what he's going to do to your day from that text message or that phone call, why don't you block him? Why are you giving this person emotional access to you? Why are you continuing to call him or her back? Do you have validation issues? Where you need the validation of all of these people around you. You got to be busy. You got to be in the mix. It makes you feel accepted. Because you're the loudest person in the club doesn't mean that you're really having fun. Because you're pulling up in the nicest car doesn't mean you actually have gas money.
Here's what's important. Debate all major issues. Some issues are, sort of obvious. Say, well, I can see the positive side of that right away. But some need discussion. Now, here's what's valuable, to discuss some things with someone else. Debate back and forth. So here's what's important, is to debate the major life issues. In good health today, the great debate is on, which has given us advances we've never had before. So here's what you must be, though, in the debate. A good student. Open to learning, defending and learning. It's important not just to defend. Defend and learn. Defend your point of view until it's sort of obvious that you've got to give some ground here because you haven't done your research. But this debating is important. We have to debate the health issues. One health book says, do this, you'll live forever. The second health book says, if you do that, you'll die young. So here's what we should do. Make the note. Be a student, not a follower. Every day in 1,000 different ways, we are trying to improve ourselves by learning how to do things. We spend a lifetime gathering knowledge in classrooms, in textbooks, in experiences. Now, if knowledge is power, if knowledge is the forerunner to success, then why do we fall short of our objectives? Why, in spite of all our knowledge and in spite of our collective experiences, do we find ourselves aimlessly wandering, settling for a life of existence rather than a life of substance? While there may be many answers to this question, the fundamental answer is the absence of discipline. Applying all that we know. That's the key word, discipline, self-discipline. We might add one more word here, consistent. Consistent self-discipline. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success.
Discipline is the root of all good qualities, but you have to absolutely apply it to things outside of just waking up early. It's everything. It's working out every day, making yourself stronger and faster and more flexible and healthier. Discipline is eating the right foods to fuel your system. It's about disciplining your emotions so you can make good decisions. It's about having the discipline to control your ego so your ego doesn't get out of hand and control you. It's about treating people the way you would want to be treated. And doing the tasks that you don't necessarily want to do, but that you know will help you or help your team. It's about facing your fears. It takes discipline to face your fears so you can conquer them. And that's what discipline is. Discipline means taking the hard road, the uphill road, to do what's right for yourself and for other people. It's so often the easy path that calls to us to be weak for that moment, to break down for that moment, to give in to the desire and the short-term gratification. But the discipline will not allow that. The discipline calls for strength and fortitude and will. It won't accept weakness. It won't tolerate another breakdown. The discipline can seem like it's your worst enemy. But the reality is, discipline is your best friend. It will take care of you like nothing else can. And it'll put you on that path. The path to strength and health and intelligence and happiness. And most importantly, it'll put you on that path to freedom.
Simple part that most people don't understand is that every thought we think and every word we speak is creating our future. It's as though our thoughts go out into the universe and are accepted and brought back to us as experience. Now that is a very simple thing, but most people don't get it. They don't understand it. They've never heard it before, and they think it's ridiculous. But if you can really accept the fact that every time you think a thought and every time you speak a word, you are literally painting your future, making your dinner, whatever you want to call it. You are creating, and you're creating your own life. And this is simple, but it's not easy to accept. But once you accept it, then you can start deliberately creating what you want in your life. And you begin to be aware of what you don't want in your life and how you are contributing to it. Now, I think this has been around forever, but for some reason in the last 20 years, the universe has wanted this to go out among all the people, or all the people that are ready for it. See, most of us just think, and we don't pay any attention to what we're thinking. We're just doing it. But that's something you need to train yourself to do, to begin to train yourself to be aware of what you're thinking. And one of the ways to do that is to periodically say to yourself, what am I thinking? Would I like this thought to create my life? Would I like to have the experience that this thought could bring to me? Now, it takes a while to do that, but even if we could begin on the smallest level to be aware of our thinking, we can start to make changes.
I love talking about discipline because I think so many people, that word has such a negative connotation around it, right? It just sounds bad. Discipline, like you're going to feel pain or someone's going to hurt you or you're in trouble for something. And I want to start having you think about it in a really positive way, because discipline equals freedom. 100%. It has been the theme throughout my entire life, is how if you have structured discipline in your life and you start doing the things that you don't want to do, especially if you do them first, you are absolutely going to free yourself of all of the different pain that comes with not getting your goals accomplished, that comes with not taking care of yourself, that comes with living with regret. So before, way back in my early 20s, and even through my mid 20s, when I would, I was trying to create habits around maybe eating right, or habits around working out. And let me tell you, habits around getting stuff done. I literally in my head told myself all the time, my mantra at the time was, I never finish anything. So what do you think I did? I finished nothing, because that's literally how I talk to myself. Well, I never finished anything. This is another thing I didn't finish. So I had to switch that mantra around, and it was also realizing how important discipline was and how much freedom came with it. And I spent a lot of time living in agony in my head, and I was tired all the time because I spent more of my time in my brain thinking about what I didn't do and arguing with myself all day long. Am I going to go to the gym? I don't want to go to the gym. You should go to the gym. Why aren't you going to the gym? You know you need to go to the gym. You're never going to get to your goals. It's like I was drained just because of the conversations I was having with myself. If I would have just gotten disciplined, committed to a time, or knew I was going, I could have focused on all of the other good things that were happening in my life and just knew this is what I'm doing. It's like just saying, okay, well, here's what I'm doing so I can forget about it until the moment that it comes, and I'm going to do it because I'm committing, truly committing to discipline, and how freeing that is. And when I started getting a great discipline habit around all of the things that I wanted to do, I started to notice how much more free I felt, how much less anxiety I felt, how when my head hit the pillow, I felt proud instead of another day just went by that I'm further away from my goals and I have regret and I'm feeling my life race by me, right? Those are all feelings that do not feel good, that discipline can free you from.
Do you plan your day much, or your time generally? Does this lead to higher productivity? Yes, I plan my day obsessively. My calendar is always absolutely full, and often weeks in advance. And I plan in the morning, especially when I'm on top of things. And I plan each hour, and I probably plan each minute. And yes, it leads to way higher productivity. You decide what your goals are going to be. You place them in the calendar. Use the calendar as your friend, Because what you want to do with the calendar is design a day that you want to have. or a day that would be good for you. And a day that would be good for you is one that you're when you end the day, you feel that you've moved yourself ahead towards your valued goals, and that you've kept chaos under control. And that enables you to sleep soundly and with a good conscience, and to know that the next day is going to be at least not worse than that day. Planning is unbelievably useful. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record with regards to the future authoring program, but it really is useful. You need to figure out what it is that you're aiming at and why, and then you need to figure out how you're going to break that down over the months and the weeks and the days. But I would approach your calendar like it's your best friend. You think, okay, I'm going to design a week, man, that I really want to have. And that means you can schedule in leisure and all the things that you want to do, which you absolutely should do. And it's also quite fun to give yourself minimal time to do something complicated, because it's quite challenging to see if you can do far more than you thought in far less time. And so that's a fun game. And the other thing you can do is, like, if you're avoiding something, you could schedule in 5 minutes of it. Say, well, like if you're avoiding looking at some bills because you're afraid of them, your first step might be to schedule in 5 minutes where you just look at the bill. You don't do anything else. And, you might be able to entice yourself into doing that. But I would say, learning to plan is unbelievably useful, to schedule your time, because that's your life, but schedule the life you want. That means you have to schedule your responsibilities obviously, because responsibilities are those things that ruin your life if you don't fulfill them.
I had to begin to focus on what was the solution. That this was not the only place that I'll be able to sell those products. And as I began to challenge myself and got some help and support and some other input, I eventually did. It took longer, but it was challenging. But I did it. Repeat after me, please. No matter how bad it is, or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. Shake somebody's hand on your right and left and say, you got that right. Repeat after me, please. It's possible. I can have my dream. I can get what I want. I must be creative and never give up. Now, let me share something else with you, ladies and gentlemen. When you know within yourself that there's something you want to do, and I believe that all of us were born with a purpose, that all of us have something that we are supposed to do, that all of us have some goodness within us, and that goodness gives us a responsibility to manifest our greatness. And when you know that, you can feel it in your guts, and you know that you're deliberately operating below your potential, you've gotten comfortable, you stop expanding, you stop stretching, you stop challenging yourself. Let me share something else with you. Not only is it possible for you to have your dream, but it's necessary. It's necessary that you have it, that you work on it, that you develop yourself, that you go for what is yours in the universe. I have a friend that at the beginning of the year, I was in Los Angeles giving a speech, and I do a seminar teaching people how to become involved in the speaking business, and also one called Speaking with Power, teaching people how to begin to develop their communication skills. And this friend, I said, I want you to work with me. I called her up. She said, Les, are you sure I can do it? Sure you can. You have a PhD in communications. I don't have that. If I can do it, sure you can do it. In fact, I'm going to give you the support that you need. Here's what I realized, ladies and gentlemen. We only have enough energy to take us to a certain level, but it's necessary that we assemble ourselves with other people who share our vision, other people that can see it for us, to give ourselves a home court advantage. So it's necessary that you seek out other people who think like you, who are growing, who have decided that they are not satisfied with where they are. See, I don't believe that necessity is the mother of invention. No, necessity, in my opinion, is not the mother of invention. Refusing to accept things the way that they are is the mother of invention. When you decide, I'm not going to settle for this, this is not going to be it for my life, I deserve more than this. See, that will start making you do some stuff. See, a lot of people go to work every day miserable, and all they do is just talk about how miserable they are, but they don't do anything about it. So I was telling her that I knew she hated her job with a passion. I said, you can do this. You got more going for you than I have going for me. And we've been going through this for years, ladies and gentlemen. She'd been to my seminar speaking for a living. She brought her husband, and that was one of the major problems that I realized that happened in her life. He couldn't see it for her. So you got to make sure that you have people in your life that can see it for you, that will encourage you. Non-affirming relationships can hurt you. And I talked to him. I said, I don't have anything to do with your marriage. I said, you and I are good friends, and she and I are good friends. And I'm not taking sides. I said, but if you can't see it for her, don't tell her that. Just give her some support. What if you're wrong? It's possible, man, that if I'm doing it, she can do it. Well, you're different. How are you going to tell me that? You've seen her speak. She's got great speaking skills. Don't underestimate her. You don't know. You got a great woman here. But you see, people who can't see it for themselves can't see it for you. He was happy. So I said, will you do it with me? I said, I'm going to give you the support you need. You can't do it by yourself. I will stand with you. She said, you will? I said, yes. I'm going to make you a part of my seminar. You'll do a part of it and I'll do a part of it. Speaking with power. She said, okay. 3 days later, ladies and gentlemen, I got an emergency call at my office. It was from her husband. He called and said, tell Les Brown that Marion is dead. I said, oh no. When I was flying there to go to the funeral, and I remember the last time that I saw her, and I had some of her papers that I had gotten inadvertently confused with mine, and I took them home. And I was searching through these papers to do one of her works. She was a prolific writer. And what got me, what was so sad that made me begin to cry, was that there were poems that she had started that were profound poems, great thoughts that she didn't complete. Plays that she had started that she didn't complete. See, that poem was given to her. I can't finish that for her, nor can you. That play, whatever the outcome that she had envisioned, that she had imagined, was given to her. Only her. And that she's the channel that was going to come through. You are here, and you are the vessel, you are the outlet for the universe. That you've been selected. There's something for you to do. I believe all of us have some purpose for being here. And as I was going to the funeral, and I was reading a newspaper that said that millions of people are dying because of what they're eating, talking about their diet. And I'm sure that it was Marion talking to me, whispering, saying, Les, the next time you speak, say that even more are dying because of what's eating them.
Are you ready for something miraculous? One of the little boys that Rod Crew mentored was a guy named Conrad Rowland. Conrad Rowland was an NFL football player eventually. Rod met him when he was a little boy, the same age when he met me. Conrad was the same age when he met me. And he took an interest in Conrad and believed in him. And Conrad went on to play for the Ravens and other NFL teams. He was in his off season, he was working out at the gym. Rod hadn't seen him in many, many years. He felt a click behind his right eye. He called his brother and said, I think something's wrong. His dad said, we feared it was an aneurysm. Are you ready? This is a little boy that Rod Crew mentored. At the same time that happened, Rod had a massive heart attack on a golf course and nearly died. At the same time, he nearly died. Thank God he was on the first hole and they were able to resuscitate him. And he was left with a few days to live. While Rod was in the hospital, Conrad passed away. Conrad donated a heart. Conrad was 29 years old. That heart saved Rod Crew's life, and he's still alive today. So, the lesson from that is that there's a payoff, and even if there wasn't, you should do it. But the investment of belief in people, sowing seeds of belief, that's what makes you a leader. People say, what makes me a leader? Makes you a leader is your example. What makes you a leader is you investing belief and loving and caring about people. Any one of you in this moment could decide you're going to lead, because leadership is instilling something in someone that they don't see in themselves. Loving on them, believing them, seeing their giftedness. All of you, I don't care if you're loud or quiet, big here or small here, you could be a leader. The bottom line is you need to decide you want to lead. You need to decide it's worth it. Our company's looking for leaders, and it's about your destiny. If you invest in enough people, there's a payoff for your destiny. I'm telling you right now, the more I'm here, the longer I'm here, my heart knows we're a company of destiny. We're a company where dreams come true. We're a company that stands for something. We're a company that changes lives. We're a company where dreams happen for people. You got to believe that. You got to believe you got a destiny. I hope you're hearing those people sitting with you saying, you can do this. You belong here. This is where you belong. This is where you can make it. I want to talk to you about becoming a leader for a second. You got to feel and know you're going to lead. It's not just going to happen. You have to make it happen. A few things you need to know is, listen, no one's going to do anything for you. A couple rules of being a real leader. You need to take responsibility for your own life. Bringing energy to your team. Leading in recruiting. Leading in leadership. Leading in growth. Nobody owes you anything, but you owe other people everything. That's what a leader does. You take responsibility. You know exactly right now what you're not doing. It would be criminal of you to leave here and say, I don't know what to do. You know exactly what you're afraid of. You know exactly what you've been avoiding, and you got to make a decision to change it. You know exactly what it is. Don't BS anybody. You know what you need to do different. You know the changes you need to make. And if you can do that, you stop kidding yourself, you can win. You can overcome your fear, overcome procrastination, whatever that is. You know exactly what it is. Number 2, you got to compete. I agree with what Monty said yesterday. You don't have to be number 1, but dadgummit, you better want to compete to be the best version of you could possibly be. Your desire and will to win is everything. I believe you win with intangibles, with emotion, with energy, with passion. And you got to bring that. You know what we're really looking for right here? We're looking for some dogs, man, some road dogs. We're looking for some people that want to get aggressive. How many road dogs we got out there? You know what I mean, right? I hear ladies go sometimes, some of the guys who, I don't know if I got a road dog in me. Ladies, let me tell you something. The hardest core road dogs in the world are women. Hey, ladies, here's how we know. What if someone messed with your kid at school? You know how you get? You slap the hell out of a little kid if you have to, don't you? You don't give a crap. Well, guess what, ladies? Listen to me. You're letting the world slap the hell out of your family, and you're not doing anything about it. You're letting life slap the hell out of your kids and you. You're settling for average, aren't you? You're settling for ordinary, aren't you? See, you may not see the slap, but you can feel it. You need to stop letting the world slap your family around. It's time that stops right now. You say, that's the end of this. This family wins now. I'm leading this family. Change happens now. Say yes.
Stop letting people hold you to your past. Yeah, man, I got what I used to do, but I'm trying to do better now. Stop letting people tie you to what they saw you do 5, 10 years ago. You can go on the internet and say whatever you want to say about me in the past. Got all that. Was who I was, but I am who I am, and I'm cool with both of them people. You got to be not all right to get all right. You got to be lost to get saved. You got to have been through something to know something. So please, get comfortable with that get comfortable with that part. I don't know what I'm doing on time, so I'm just going to go ahead. Okay, cool. Here we go. This is the one I really wanted to do because this one describes my life to the T. When I left college, I flunked out of college after 3 years. When I worked at Ford Motor Company, one of the last jobs I had because of the layoffs was they put me in the foundry. I learned a valuable lesson in the foundry because I used to be a foundry worker at Ford Motor Company. I'm now a spokesperson for Ford. Let me tell you how the flip went. A lot of people don't know, but in the foundry, they was making engine blocks. Engine blocks start with scrap metal. See, people, you think old cars just go away. No, they go to junkyards. Companies take this scrap metal and they melt the metal down. But it starts with scrap. They run it through a furnace, and when it gets in the furnace, they liquefy the metal. Then they take this metal and they pour it into a mold. This mold is the engine block. But when you pour it in there, it's just hot. It's just hot. It ain't nothing. And you think that you can't do nothing with that. But then something comes along and gets a hold of it. Something comes and gets a hold of it. It takes this hot piece of mess that was scrap. It lifts it. It dips it. It cools it. It refinishes it. It hardens it. And then it puts it on a conveyor belt. When it come out the conveyor belt, my job was to hit it with a sludge hammer and knock the loose flashing out. That's empty, extra metal on it. And then you have an engine block. The basic of any engine is the block. You got a cracked block, you can throw that engine away. It don't work. But the block starts from scrap metal. This really how God do it, though. See, God takes scrap. All engine blocks is scrap. He takes scrap. Come on, Steve. Come on. He molded it. He poured into it. Then it come out, he cool it, he shaped, and he started putting stuff on it. He started attaching pieces to it. He put a manifold on it. He put the rocker arm on it. He put the exhaust on it. He put spark plugs on it. He put a carburetor on it. He put a fan belt, water pump, and he take it and he put it in a car. But all of it started when it was a piece of scrap metal, man. We cannot do as Christians is just cause we the card now. You can't look at the dude that's in the furnace that's just wet liquid. That's a hot mess. You can't look back at the scrap pile and go, they just scraps, man. Because what you don't understand is you got to have that scrap so you can make a block, so God can put stuff on it. So when you put it on it, you can be a car one day. I just want everybody to let everybody be a block, man. Let them be a hot mess in a furnace. Let them be a scrap, man. You ain't got nothing to do with that. That's God right there, man. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all.
You got to get ready mentally. And this is where Shoaff went to work on me, to be ready mentally, to develop the philosophy and also be able to defend your virtues and your values. Let's go through it. You need a good library. Shoaff got me started on my library. Here's one of the books he recommended. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich. Shoaff said to me, doesn't that book and title intrigue you? Think and Grow Rich. Don't you have to read that book? Think and Grow Rich. I said, yes, sir. By Napoleon Hill. I went and found that book in a used bookstore. That's where I had to start. In a used bookstore. I paid less than 50 cents for it. I've still got it. It's one of the rare hardback covers. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Wow, Shoaff was right. Get a library started. It'll change your life. Any home over $200,000 has got a library. Why do you suppose that is? Wouldn't that make you curious? How come every home over $200,000 has got a library? Does that tell you something? Does that educate you at all? You say, well, I can't afford a $200,000 home. It doesn't matter what size home. Take your present apartment, clean out a closet, call it your library, and start acting intelligent. And start this process like I did. Start developing a library. Here's what your library needs to show, that you're a serious student of health and life, spirituality, culture, uniqueness, sophistication, economics, prosperity, productivity, sales, management, skills, values of all kinds. Let your library show you're a serious student. Don't be casual in learning. Don't be lazy in learning. Information is the key. Okay. Learning is the beginning of wealth. Learning is the beginning of health. Learning is the beginning of prosperity. Learning is the beginning of democracy, the beginning of freedom. All values, all virtues start with the learning process. So don't be lazy in learning. Don't be lazy in gathering the library that'll teach you and instruct you. And I got that book, Think and Grow Rich. Some of the ideas in that book inspired me no end, helped me to change my life. Now, it's got some weird stuff in it. It's got some weird stuff. Napoleon was weird, so you gotta separate out a little of this weird stuff. But you can do that. You can separate out the weird stuff, okay? Unless you're weird, just do the weird stuff. Anyway, remember, don't be a follower, be a student. That's the key to all books. Don't be a follower, be a student. Okay. Another book he recommended, Help Me Become Financially Independent. We're going to cover that before we finish this afternoon. The book was entitled The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, C-L-A-S-O-N. This little book, The Richest Man in Babylon, I use it as a textbook, teaching teenagers how to be rich by 40, living in America. 35 if you're extra bright, much sooner if you find a unique opportunity. I got rich by the time I was 31, didn't wait till 35. You find a unique opportunity. So we'll get into that after we come back from our next break. Richest Man in Babylon. Get your library started. Here are some key sections to put in your library called mental food. In fact, we call it food for thought. It's so important to nourish the mind, not just the body, but nourish the mind. Key phrase. Now it needs to be well balanced. You can't live on mental candy. Somebody says, well, I just read this positive stuff. That's too second grade. You've got to get out of second grade. You can't just be inspired. You've got to be taught. You can't just be inspired. You've got to be educated. Here's a good book. It's called How to Read a Book. Good title. How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler. In this book, How to Read a Book, Mortimer, is the chief editor of the new Encyclopedia Britannica. A good set of books, right, to have in your library. Encyclopedia Britannica, chief editor, Mortimer Adler. He's in his 80s. He's still active, still writing books. I've got several of his books. The 6 Great Ideas, a lot of books. Mortimer Adler. But he wrote this book, How to Read a Book. Now, in this book, How to Read a Book, not only does he give you some good suggestions on how to get the most out of a book. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to get the best out of it. He'll give you some techniques on how to get the best out of a book. It's very good. But here's what's also in his book, How to Read a Book. A list of what he calls the best writings ever written. The best writings ever written. I've used it as a centerpiece for my library. So I'm just asking you, take a look. If it suits you, fine. If it doesn't suit you, hey, keep looking till you find something to suit you. but well balanced. Let me give you some of that balance. Number one, history. We've all got to have a sense of history. American history, national history, international history, family history, political history. We all need a sense of history. Shortest history lesson. Opportunity mixed with difficulty. No matter how far back you go, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, I'm telling you, it all reads the same. Once you understand the thread that it isn't going to change, then what's going to change for my life? Answer, looks like I'm going to have to change. History helps us to understand how it is, what there is to work with, seed, soil, sunshine, rain, and what human beings have done with it in the past, and how many of them have, like I did by age 25, they have messed up. That's what history's for. Be a good student of history. Here's a good book, Lessons of History by Durand. Lessons of History by Durand. This little book is only 100 pages, but I'm telling you, it's so well written, you'll be intrigued, as I was. This little book, Lessons of History by Durand. Next is philosophy. Durand also wrote a good book on philosophy. The Story of Philosophy. It's got a good rundown of the key philosophers of the last several hundred years, what they taught and some of the lives they lived. You might find it a little difficult, but hey, you can't just read the easy stuff. Key phrase to add here in parentheses, don't just read the easy stuff. You won't grow. You won't change. You won't develop. Tackle the more difficult stuff. Next, novels. Novels are good. Sometimes an intriguing story keeps our attention so that the author can weave in the philosophy he or she is trying to get across. Ayn Rand was probably better at that than anybody else I could possibly think of. Atlas Shrugged, some of those towering novels. The novel kept us intrigued, but guess what she was doing all the time? Feeding us her philosophy, feeding us her philosophy. Now, whether you agreed with her philosophy or not, you had to admit she was really good at getting it out there, weaving it through the story, in the dialogue and in the speeches and in the text. Novels are good. Now, here's a little personal advice. Skip the trash, sometimes you can find something valuable in a trashy novel. I wouldn't go through it to find it. You can find a crust of bread in a garbage can, but I wouldn't go through it. Number one, you don't need the reputation. So, not enough time to read the brilliant stuff, the good stuff. Skip the trash, really. My personal advice on personal development, becoming more valuable than you are.